Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the Empire Builders MasterCast. Justin, how are you? Honoree's on her way. She's taking care of Rogue. I'm getting ready to bring her on live now. Honoree, give me the thumbs up if you're ready. All right, 3, 2, 1.
Touchdown.
You are good at that.
What?
The speed thing, like
Who's speaking?
Rogue's like, we got to go. Like,
Well,
go.
so they needed to go. Well, actually, they didn't. They were sleeping, but we're both about to leave. And so I had to get them up out of the chair and with their collars. And then they're kind of like sniffing every blade of grass. And so I finally just said to Byron, I was like, I'm leaving the door open and I'm going upstairs. So I think they're back inside.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Hi, Justin.
Hey, Justin.
Justin's at his new job.
Oh, am I allowed to ask what we're doing or no? Should do that offline. Offline.
He's a videographer and a video editor. So he's doing videographer and video editor things.
Excellent.
Yes. And for those of you who follow me on Instagram at Empire Builder USA, I put up some shorts that he did for us from the show, with Ali. But did you introduce yourself?
I did not. I was waiting for you. I was being
okay. Here I am.
I actually just went live right before and was telling people, hey, Honoree will be with me in just a moment.
Oh,
And then
great.
like, boom,
Okay.
you popped in the screen. So,
well, I slid. I have socks on. So I like slid across the wood floor and into the chair. I mean, it was an epic move. I'm surprised you didn't see it. It was pretty cool.
I spared you this could have been like a moment for you. This could have like projected you into the next stratosphere of fame.
Yeah, I don't want that. No.
Not visible.
No, you know how I feel about that. All right, go.
Yeah, so hey guys, how's it going? I'm Lucas. I'm an author. I write nonfiction. I write fiction. I help people create courses from their books. And this is Honoree. Honoree, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm Honoree Quarter, and I help people become authors.
You do.
And I help them to market their books and to monetize their books. And you and I, Lucas, are the co-creators of the EmpireBuildersMasterClass.com. And that is a one-stop shop for folks who want to have access to courses in a community of folks who are writing, publishing, and monetizing their books with courses and speaking and training and consulting and workbooks and white labeling and bulk sales.
All the things.
Speaking, training. Did I say those things? Squirrel?
Yeah.
Okay. What are all the income streams? All the income streams. Masterminds.
All the different ways you can monetize your fiction, your nonfiction. All the things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And of course, if you're watching this, you're either watching it on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. And if you're watching it anywhere but YouTube, know that you can go to YouTube and watch every live we've done and every pre-recorded episode we've ever done right here on the YouTube channel. We keep this as our kind of like our central hub repository for all of our videos. And there is tons of content on this channel. So.
And more all the time. And you're going to unleash the Kraken here soon, I hear.
We are getting ready to be all up in some shorts. That's it. The kind of video shorts.
To be clear.
Yeah, it is summer, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're releasing a whole slew of short videos that that Justin has been kind enough to spend much of his life editing and producing the last couple months. And so we'll all shed a little tear for Justin because his work will be out there for the world to see.
Yeah. Well,
I'll be very happy for him.
He's been talking with me and watching us nonstop. So the fact that he's here is a good sign. He isn't like, okay, all Honoree all the time. Let's just switch the channel to something, anything else. Yes. Yeah. Yes. How was your week?
It was great. It's been insane, but it's been great. The kids are out of school, but all the friends graduating things are happening. So we had to go to graduations and graduation parties and award ceremonies, and all the things have been going. So that's been absolutely wonderful. Yes. And wrapping all of that in with writing 2 books at the same time and working on all the different course projects for clients, and it's been very busy but very fruitful. So
Yes. I have all of that, just not the
minus the high
children.
school stuff, which is
Yes.
good.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about your reading this week? I'm over here
My
pulling up my.
reading this week.
Hmm.
I got a copy of Right Thing Right Now by Ryan Holiday, and it went from the desk to the credenza because I couldn't get to it, and it was taunting me. I did read a book on writing cozy mysteries, and then I have my standard everyday fare that I read. And I listened to a book by someone who I love. I used to read her stuff all the time, Mary Higgins Clark.
Okay.
I just am looking up this book title. I've Got You Under My Skin.
Like the song.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Nice.
And that was fun. So I listened to that, and I think that's it. I'm missing something. I'll add it to the show notes when I think what it is. And then, of course, I was reading a book that's coming out the end of July for a client. So I was going through that. I ordered proofs yesterday. And then I have a redo of this book.
Oh, Vision to Reality.
Vision to Reality is coming in early July. So I'm putting the finishing touches on that right now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So forming the advanced reader team for the second edition, because it's been 10 years since I released that book, and it's still a
Wow.
favorite, still sells, sold a few copies yesterday.
Yeah.
And I had meant to take it off of sale, but um, it's still good information. It's just been revised and updated and expanded.
Yeah.
So that will
Awesome.
be coming out in early July. And then we have
Cool.
EBM next week. So I've been
Oh my
reading
gosh.
the agenda and making sure all of my ducks are in a row.
I'm actually looking forward to the trip because I think I'm gonna be able to like just not be running around. You know, I can kind of spend a little bit more time in my laptop than I've been able to do lately.
Yeah.
I spent hours a night doing admin stuff, for businesses, and
Yep.
it'll be nice to have all that done so that next week when I'm on travel and everything, I can get some really good writing done. It'd be
Yes.
awesome.
Yes. We're going to have a
Let's
good
see.
time. We're going to eat good things.
Yes, that's what I'm looking forward to. It's all the food.
All the food.
Let's see. What did I read this week? I've been reading. I'm a big fan of short story collections, but I
Okay.
don't get to spend much time in them because I spend so much time reading novels and novellas for my podcast, my fiction podcast.
Uh-huh.
So this will be the second time I've interviewed an author actually third time I've interviewed an author for their short story collection. So I'm reading Shrouded Horror, Tales of the Uncanny from Casey Griffin,
Oh,
Griffant.
another one from Casey.
Yeah. So reading
Tales from who? Tales that just scared me.
of the Uncanny, Shrouded Horror is the name of
Yeah, I got
the
that.
book.
I got that. You
And
saw my face, right? I go,
I
"What?"
did. And I finished The Wild Dark from Catherine Silva, which is just so cool.
Okay.
The Wild Dark is like a little horror, a bunch of adventure, a little post-apoc, thriller, action. I think you'd
Okay.
call it like action/adventure horror. It's really good.
Are you an adrenaline junkie?
A little bit.
Okay, so that's where that next level of horror stuff. Because I'm an adrenaline junkie. I just am not a horror person necessarily, but I
I'm
do
not a
love a thriller that I can't put down that
yeah
makes my pulse go. I'm a
yeah.
big
I'm
fan of that
I'm not
for
a
sure.
slasher horror or extreme horror reader, which is where most people's minds go when they think of horror. I'm more into like suspenseful thinking. Like I want a book that makes me think. I want to be surprised. I want to be dragged along, kicking and screaming. But I don't need body horror. That stuff
Okay.
doesn't really do anything for me. I'm not like, oh look, you can do all this crazy violent stuff. That's not really what gets me.
Right.
it's one of the reasons why Pet Sematary is probably one of my all-time favorite stories, is because it's a thinker. It's not necessarily a slasher.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have not read it.
Pet Sematary from Stephen King
Yeah, I know who wrote it.
was probably my introduction to horror as a reader. Like,
Let me check the Magic 8 Ball.
yeah.
Nope.
And it's just it just deals with grief and like decision making that is kind of like, there's no way you're going to do that. Oh my God, you're going to do that kind of thing.
Okay.
So yeah,
Now I feel like I've read it. I'm good.
yeah, you're
Thank
good
you.
to go.
Thank you so much. That was
And I did want to give a shout out to my buddy Joseph Madry. So Joe Madry just released, speaking of slashers, Wes Craven, the movie
yeah.
creator.
Yeah.
He just basically, Joseph Madry just wrote a book called The Soul of Wes Craven. And it is like over 80 interviews with his family and friends, never seen before photos, chapters about his alter egos, history about his poetry, short stories, and articles. And Joe, I normally wouldn't be the kind to pick up a book and read about someone on that side of the industry.
Right.
But Joe Madry is such a phenomenal writer, and he's actually one of the minds behind a lot of the true crime shows you see on TV.
I do love those.
Joe is one of the people who writes a lot of those stories for television. And he happens to live here in Richmond, Virginia, and we know each other through the Horror Writers Association. So
Okay.
if you guys are children of the 80s and 90s like I was, and you're interested in kind of a peek behind the curtain at the life of Wes Craven, then check out The Soul of Wes Craven, which
I
was,
think I want to read that.
yeah. I
That
bet
sounds
it's
interesting. I always loved it.
fascinating.
I huge fan of VH1 Behind the Music back in the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Love those. So sad they stopped doing that. I also like American Greed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
always like, you were just so naughty. Why did you do that? Yes.
Yeah. So big
Wow.
shout out to Joe there, because
That's
he's not,
awesome.
yeah, he's you know, it's some, I always feel bad for some of the nonfiction writers in these spaces, because they will write such a fantastic book and it'll fall in the laps of people that are really big fans of the people they're writing about.
Right.
But otherwise it kind of gets lost in the shuffle. And so I don't want that to happen to this. So
Okay. All right.
yeah. And
That's cool.
that's where my eyes have been outside of my own work.
Right. Right. Well, you're
You and I are
doing
both
this
writing
cool-
books. So,
Yes. I'm working on an updated version of Business Dating also.
nice.
So Vision to Reality, then Business Dating, and Kent and I are working on a project. So that'll round out my year for the nonfiction side, and then I've got some fiction stuff coming. I'm just not talking about it yet. So
That's right. Cooking.
I've decided not to just talk about things. I've gone dark and quiet on things. I think that's better than just to drop it,
Yeah.
when I'm ready. So speaking of things that we're not talking about and things that we're talking about, today's topic,
Yes.
we should talk about the power of short term and long term,
Yeah.
because we both do both.
Yes.
Yes.
And man, are both great
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
in their own way. You're like,
yeah.
when you have the short and you have the long and it's working, you're like, thank God I did that. Or
Right.
I'm
And
doing
I
that.
think maybe just you want to take a second and just
Sure.
tell people what we're talking about from a broader sense.
Sure. So in your I mean, essentially looking at whether you're an author or you're a course creator or you're both, or you're someone that has some form of expertise that you're helping people as a consultant or a coach or whatever. You have products that you deliver in the moment, services, the short game, right? These aren't multi-year things. They're time bound projects, and these clients may come stay with you for a couple days, weeks, months, and then those have moved on, and those are more of your short-term action. They tend to have very high impact in that short term, because there's fund flows associated with those short-term actions. Some of your longer-term activities are assets that are tied to your business, like your books, your courses, enduring products that are kind of timeless, and they can build power over time, right? So even yesterday, I was like joking around with someone on a call at the Horror Writers Association last night. Honoree is known for saying your book's not an avocado, right? And I said, hey, don't worry about if things are a little sluggish on the start here. We just need to crank up the machine and get the word out about your book.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, if it's part of a series, you're really not going to see the power of that book until the whole series is published. So if you're doing a series of books over several years, it's a bit of a patience game, because until that
Yes.
book series is reached maturity, you're really not going to be able to recognize the full impact of that series on your business as an author. So
Right.
yeah, so that's kind of the
Right.
30,000-foot view. Is you've got things you do today that endure for short or long periods of time, and you need to be planning them accordingly, because the
Yeah.
long game is important.
Well, I think you're riding two horses at the same time, which is not advised, except it's advised
Sounds terrible.
because, well, well, it sounds very like there's a flowy dress and the hair is blowing in the wind and the horses are beautiful and you're standing up and going really fast. That's the picture I have in my mind. But what I think is interesting about being an entrepreneur, especially the type of entrepreneur that we are,
Hmm.
is we don't have at least right this minute, we don't have a traditional type of business.
Right.
We're not the entrepreneur that started a CPA firm or opened a massage parlor or skincare boutique or something like that, right? So our products are digital for the most part, except for the books and services.
Right.
And what I see people wanting to do, well, and I want this too. I want instant gratification all the time. When I want something, I want it yesterday. When I identify something, I'm like, oh, I'd like that yesterday, please and thank you. Um, I think there is a lot of talk of people that launch something and become very successful very quickly. And so when someone is working on a venture or a product or a service and they're not instantaneously revenue positive, so they can let go of the thing that's paid the bills up to this point, there's a lot of frustration. And I thought if we talked about just setting the expectation that you're probably going to have to keep your job or keep providing the services
Sure.
for the foreseeable future while you're planning long term to have enough revenue so that you don't have to do the products and services, or you can be much more exclusive about who you provide them for and how often.
Right. Yep.
And I think that is an important distinction is, when we're talking, if we can talk about, can we talk about your fiction
Sure.
and your
Sure.
services? So you
Yeah.
provide courses. So you have monetize your book with a course, the book. You have
Yep.
monetize your, and I'm just using this as an example to kind of walk people through it, because they go, well, he has a book and he has a course, so surely he shouldn't have to provide services anymore, except that your book came out in 23.
23. Yep.
Your course
February.
came out in 23. They're babies.
Yeah.
They're not even old enough to walk yet,
Nope.
right?
Yeah.
So when we think about the fact that we're creating evergreen content, your book is not an avocado, your course is not an avocado, so they're designed with the long term in mind. Market penetration and product and brand awareness take time to build. So when you wrote the book and published the book and designed the course and published the course, I don't remember any talk of, woohoo, I'm rich, right? It's like, I'm going to sell, 150 copies a day and 10
Quit the
courses a
job,
day. And, Tammy and I are going to buy an island and we're going to be off to the races.
Right.
So that's not how all of that works.
Right.
So what you have done during this time is to still provide custom course creation services for authors who want to create courses and they don't want to necessarily take the course. They want more hand holding. They want more of a white glove experience from you.
Right.
And so that has been all part of this plan that's intersected. And
Right.
then you have also been on a third horse. And I'm wrapping in the other stuff that you do, right? Your
Sure.
merino training, right? Like,
Mhm.
but then you have also been working on fiction, which, if nonfiction is a slow burn and a long-term play, fiction is even longer.
Right.
Fiction, I have said to clients, my own nonfiction clients, many times, the best way to market your book is to write another book.
Right.
In fiction, what do you do when you read an author that you like?
Look for
What's
the
the
next
first
book.
thing you do? You go, what else do they have?
Yep.
And it's funny because I read an established author's new series, the first book, and it was bait and switch, Lucas. I'm still bitter. Not bitter. Because on Amazon, it said the first in the series of 4, and it listed book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4, but book 2 doesn't come out till later in 24.
Nice.
So they already have book 1 has been released. I read it. I'm ready to go. I like the characters. I'm ready to go into the second book. So I go to find the second book, and it's like, pre-order your book. I was like, oh, rude. So rude. Right?
This is why I try not to do my pre-orders more than like 90 days out.
Wow, but I mean, that's far. It's like the end of the year. I think it's November or December or something. So of course I'm like, all right,
Sure.
well, I'll add it to my TBR on Goodreads, and we'll wait for the announcement that it's available. But if the author is looking to be a full-time writer, just that's all they do, there's a lot that goes into
Oh yeah.
writing multiple books, given the fact that you're going to have to, most likely, under normal circumstances, have a novella, right? Have a prequel, or give that first book away, which means you're not getting into the revenue until books 2, 3, 4, 5 get into the series. When I discovered J.T. Ellison's series based on a detective in Nashville, and it'll come to me, the Samantha series. I was so excited because there were, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 books in the series. And then there was a little like 6.5. So books 1, whatever. And then there was a 6.5. And then it was like, oh, great. Well, there's another series that goes off of this one. It gave me a lot of places to go, but that series was written over years at a time. And that's the long-term play. And we had Ali on here. We've had Ali on the show twice, once with you and once without you. And the topic of his book is discipline. And it takes a lot of discipline to look 10 years into the future and say, okay, what's my book business going to look like 10 years from now?
Right.
How many books am I going to have 10 years from now? I have that number in my head for my fiction series.
Right.
Honoree, don't go look up Honoree's fiction series on Amazon because it's not there.
But it will be.
But 10 years from now, I'm going to have one heck of a backlist and still be publishing. That's the plan. And I'm laying the groundwork every day. I'm working on it. Unpaid. But the saying is, you do a little bit, or you do a lot for a little bit until you get a lot for a little bit.
Okay. Gotcha.
Right? So you do a lot of work for no money until you can make a lot of money for no work, for little to no work.
Right.
Now, there's never going to be, and this is why I am predicting, recorded for all time, your mega success, because you understand. I'm just saying. And Tammy, if she were there listening, but see, here's the thing. When I look at the opportunity that people have to be successful, there's probably a triangle in here somewhere, because I'm thinking of the triangle that Byron and I've talked about when it comes to being really successful as a musician or as an artist.
Right.
You have to have hard work, right? You have to be able to work hard. You have to be committed to working hard.
Right.
You have to have talent and you have to have it. You
Right.
can't have two of the three. You can't have it and talent and want to sit on your tuchus,
Right.
right? You
Yep.
can't have talent and hard work and not have the it factor.
Right.
You won't make it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have those three things and they have to be present. So when it comes to having a book business, you have to be willing to work hard tirelessly and you have to do the writing, right?
Yep.
You have to run the business like a business and then you have to market. Because running your book business, having your book, like running a book business, but then having the marketing arm of your business, I think is another data point.
Sure. Sure.
You can have a lot of books, but not do any marketing and your books won't sell.
Right.
You can do a lot of marketing and not have any books and your books won't sell because there are no books.
Yeah. I mean,
If you don't do the writing, you're not going to keep publishing new books, which are going to sell your backlist.
yeah, it's just, you know, there's this dependencies in a business like this that you can't get around, right? So
Yeah.
you can't sell nothing. So if you're not doing the writing,
Yep.
you've basically stalled.
Right.
You
And
have
then
to
you
have,
have to be discoverable.
yeah, you have to have books that you can sell. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just the way it
Yeah.
is. I was at a conference in the spring, AuthorCon, and I was cracking up because I was like, I have two titles, right, to sell at this table,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to actually make my selling pretty easy because I don't have to overwhelm people with options.
I have
I'm
two
like,
books.
look,
There you-
right?
Yeah.
So from a marketing perspective, there's some power in having more than one title, but not too many.
Right.
But man, it would have been really hard to show up at a conference with one book. Like, don't even buy your table, right? Like, you're not gonna
Yeah.
unless that book is just killing it, and you can just do the whole launch around that one book and just be rocking and rolling with sales. You know, and that's still a viable option for you if you're the kind of person that can sell hand to hand like that really well.
Right.
But having enough really makes a difference.
Right.
And across from me was David Viergoots, and I don't know if you know David, but he's popular in subscription horror, right? Writing subscription.
Okay.
He's on Ream. He's
Okay.
vocal with the Subscription for Authors group. David's got tons of titles, right? So he's got a whole table. He's got all the books.
Beautiful.
And afterward, when we were talking, he's like, "How did you do?" And I gauged the success of my event based on the numbers of titles I could bring to the table. And he does the same thing with his. And although we have drastically different volume, he's in a much better position to succeed at an event like that because he's got more to offer. Our perspective on what success is as far as that event goes is different because our expectations are different. And why are our expectations different? Because he's got an extensive backlist.
Yep. And he's still
Backlist-
writing and publishing,
Yes.
probably. Yeah.
Like
He's not.
regularly. That extensive backlist gives you so much power, and it's just a matter of time and work. So to your point, you know, it is a long game, even though it feels short because you're like, I can write this book in a month to 3 months. People think I'm crazy when I say I can write a novel in 30 days. I'm like, look, if I block down and do it, I can get it done.
Some
but-
people write their book in a month. It just takes them 10 years because they do it
Yeah.
6 minutes at a time and they spend the other
Sure.
54 minutes of their writing hour thinking about writing.
Yeah, or a lot of research, you know, like
Yeah.
be careful what you're going to write about.
Right. I'm just saying people I think there are an awful lot of people who spend a lot of time and they
Right.
get in their own way. They're thinking about it rather more than doing it. I think it
Yeah.
doesn't take actually that long to write a book.
Right.
Don't shoot the messenger. I mean,
Mhm.
but it doesn't take actually that long. If you can type, think about the number of words you can type in a minute
Right.
versus how long it takes, you know, how many words does it take? How many minutes does it take to write that number of words over and over until you have a book, a manuscript?
And I might do a month or two of prep before I even start writing. You know, of plotting and
Yep.
hashing out and all that stuff, so that when I do start writing, there's less
It's
speed
easy.
bumps in front of
It's
me.
easy.
Exactly.
It just comes right
That
out.
story's been told in my head numbers of times, and
Yeah.
all I have to do is just get it out.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
Yep.
And so then we're not just talking about books though. The long-term play is not trading time for money. The leverage that you have, the leverage and the opportunity that you have isn't just around books, although I'm the book person. So I'm heavily biased, and books are assets. And so when someone says, well, my book is my baby, I'm like, no, your book is your business asset, and your business assets are not limited to books. You can have consulting that you're paid a lot of money for. You can put the consulting in the form. So we're talking leverage, because Honoree, consulting is trading time for money. Well, you can train people in your methodology. You can create a workbook. You can create a course.
Yep.
And so you can take the things that I was talking to a guy yesterday, and he said, I would love to have a book that I could hand out, because I'm teaching the same thing in every conversation to get people where I want them to go. I'm saying the same thing over and over and over again. Can I turn that into a book? And I said, you absolutely can. We take what you're repeating and we'll put it in print. You can give it to your prospective clients. And then what they buy is high ticket consulting from you, as opposed to you spending your time selling them on the consulting. The book does the heavy lift and you do the consulting. I said, you can go next level with the leverage if you create a course and a workbook, because then the course is doing the teaching, and there's an unlimited number of courses. I've never had Amazon say, Honoree, you sold too many books. I've never had Thinkific say, you sold too many courses. Right. I've never had my bank call me and say, you have too much money in here.
Yeah.
Right. You just
come get your money.
Scale it back. Come get your money. They do that at daycare and the vet, but they don't do that at the bank. So, right. So yeah. I want to encourage anyone who's watching this who says, in 2034, I want to have a great business. 1 July 2034, I want to have a significant backlist. The gentleman you just said, I couldn't spell his name in my head. So is his first name David?
Yeah.
Okay. So David, how many books does he have?
Oh gosh. I mean, 20, 30 books, easy.
Okay. So that's a nice list. I know Tanya Kappas hit 200. I know Stephanie Bond has probably 50 or more.
Yeah, they've put out some stuff.
The prolifery, if that's a word, is selling more and more. And you and I have talked about the fact that I published 9 books in 23. And my backlist sold 3,000% more in 23 than it did in 22. Not my current, not the 9 titles. The 9 titles I published encouraged the sales of my previous books by 3,000%. It was astounding. It was absolutely astounding. So when you think about what you want your business to look like 10 years from now, what are the assets that you need to have in place? And so you will have to ride those 2 horses. You will still need to keep the lights on and the doors open, the refrigerator full, the car with gas. And that requires you to do things to earn money today. It could mean you're still providing services. It could mean you're staying in your job for a while. Also, you then spend some time every day, and it doesn't take a lot of time. And so this is where I know you, Lucas, you're writing a book in a month, but you're not writing all the time. No. Not with 3 kids and a dog and 2 businesses outside of the fiction writing. So even if you're writing, what's the most amount of time you can write in a day? Perfect world.
Yeah. So the first thing I do is I make sure I keep the writing as the goal I can't wait to get to. Because I think mentally, when you're balancing all the things, you have the power to say, of all the checklist, I have to do checklists too. I write them all out, so it goes on the checklist for the day.
Yeah.
And it is the one thing on that whole checklist, besides my kids, obviously, that I can't wait to get to. So if it happens that morning, great. If it happens that night, great. But
got it.
I try to sit down for at least an hour a day, and because I've done so much plotting and prep beforehand, and because I'm comfortable jumping around a bit in a manuscript, when it comes to the EMP type stuff where it's more action-based, thriller, a little less like, I guess the writing is a little bit like more relaxed,
Yep.
I can fly. I can write a chapter in an hour or two. Like
But
it's fine.
you're not writing a book in a month, writing
No,
Monday through Friday 9 to 5. I'm
no,
just trying to
yeah,
help connect the dots of
right.
chunking.
Yeah, because I'll even delay a day. Like if it's just not going to work, I'm like I can't do this today. Then that's fine, and I don't feel any pressure because, like you said, I
Right.
know it's a long game. It's not a short game thing. So Zach
Right.
and I have been very fluid with our release date on this book because we both have like full lives.
Right.
And we're like,
Right.
we want to do the book right, so we don't sacrifice the book just for some made up thing in our
Right.
heads.
Right.
Like we have to have it
Yep.
out August 1st.
Right.
That's us. So
But
anyways, yes,
you do have a production schedule.
we do have a production schedule. We have a date that it has to
We're
be
not going
due.
to get this book out on August 1st, maybe this year, maybe next year. I do want to point that out because
Yeah.
I think that
Oh, we
it's
do.
easy for someone to say, no, I'm saying you have it, but it's
Yeah.
easy for someone to say, well, I'm going to get around to it at
Yeah.
some
No, there's none
point,
of that.
as opposed to
Yeah.
we're putting time in and making measurable progress
That's right.
on the regular, right?
I
So
do have target publication dates for every project,
yes.
and it, I've even gone as far as putting an actual pre-order with a sales date in Amazon on one of the books to make sure that like
Awesome.
that's an immovable target
Yeah.
kind of thing because that
Right.
one has such a high priority for the rest of the series that it
Right.
can't be sacrificed.
That's
So if
right. Yeah.
there's some of those types of things that you can do to kind of make sure that you're focused. Like how you work, you need to make sure that you're leveraging that in your writing.
Yep.
But yeah, to your point, like absolutely, there's a structure, and I need to be a little flexible with it because I do have all the things going on. But it is not something
Right.
that I just get to, right?
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
want to maybe give some practical tips for anyone who's watching this and saying, "Well, what do I do? What do I do starting right now?" I like saying, "What do you want your business to look like in 10 years?" Because then you can dream and you can really estimate
Right.
what can I do in 10 years, and then you chunk it backwards to what can you do today, starting with an 18-minute time block. So if you Google what difference does 18 minutes a day make, there's an article about having, if you spend 1,000 hours on something in a year's time, you're better than 98%, more than 98% of the people on that topic area. To the end of the 10 years, to that end of having whatever you want in 10 years, you start with 18 minutes a day. And what you said really applies, which is make those 18 minutes something that you really look forward to and put them on your calendar. And so I'm constantly looking for 18-minute periods of time in my calendar where I can do exactly what you're talking about, which I'm looking forward to it. It gives me a minute to focus on it. So whether it's learning a language or writing a book or developing a course, maybe that first 18 minutes is saying, okay, so I'm going to pull a page out of some of the authors I know, and they are publishing regularly, some of them monthly, and they have a word count. So they'll say, I'm going to write 3,000 to 5,000 words a day. Let's call it 15,000 words in a week, right? So you've got 7 days to write those 15,000 words. Well, how many, let's do some math. A 50,000 word book is done divided by 3,000 is done in 17 days. Well, there are 20 business days in a month. So if you say every month I'm going to write one 50,000 word book and I'm going to publish one 50,000 word book a month, in 10 years time, you'll have 120 books. That makes old David's backlist look stupid. I think you lost sound, Lucas.
That's drafted. Yeah. Like.
Okay. Right?
Yeah.
But
Yep.
I'm saying if so,
Yeah.
how long would it take to write 3,000 words? You're welcome. Math is my strong point, Jen.
Yeah, and I think if once you have to kind of experiment a little bit to figure out what that
Yes.
speed looks like for you.
Yes. And I've just made up a round number. If you
Sure.
wanted to do 1,000 words a day,
Mm-hmm.
5 days a week, so 250 days a year. That's still 5 books a year.
Yeah.
That's still 50 books in 10 years.
Yep.
That's still fantastic. I have
Yep.
done 65 books in 20 years.
Yeah.
So this is my 20th year. So I think, okay, that's, if I could do it this way, I could do it that way. And I can write 1,000 words. That's not a problem. So I have to figure out the recipe. And by me, I mean you. Figure out the recipe for how fast can you write that 1,000 words? Bonus points if you can write it in 18 minutes. Right?
I can't do it in 18 minutes. 18 minutes for 1,000 words?
Yeah.
Like, I can't draft something that's usable that fast.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
maybe not yet.
It takes me about it. It's anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour.
I'm just saying, if you could do it, I know you can't do it, but if you could do it, how could you do it? That's
Sure.
the question.
Yeah, I just don't want people to get the expectation that they should put out 1,000 words in.
No. But I want when people are saying, okay, in 10 years, then I want to write 50
Right.
books. So I'm going to write 1,000 words a day, 5 days a week, and I'm going to publish one 50,000 word book about every 2 months. So I'm going to have 6 books a year, right? Because I'm not going to take off all of those days. I'm going to write 50 weeks a year, et cetera, et cetera. The math starts to add up, and it's like the compound effect. The more you write, the better you will write.
Absolutely.
There are a lot of authors who say they can dictate.
I can't do that with fiction. I can do it with nonfiction.
Right. But if you could figure out how to dictate your fiction, you could do 1,000 words in 20 minutes or 18 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you want to.
Right.
This is all built on.
Oh, that would be amazing, though.
A vision that you.
Trust me, if I could, I would.
Well, but here's the challenge, Lucas, as your friend, your mentor, and your coach, right? The question would be, could you do it? I know you can't do it, but if you could, how would you do it?
Yeah. I mean, the only reason I say I couldn't dictate, but I can dictate fiction or nonfiction, but not fiction, is because my fiction writing is such a different style. And I don't speak like that, but I can write like that very easily. It's
interesting.
Faster for me to type it than it is to speak it that way.
Right. Well, I type 120 words a minute. So 1,000 words in 20 minutes for me is not impossible.
Right.
Also, the fact that I can type fast is sometimes not connected to my brain.
Sure.
Right.
And I could do that with nonfiction.
Coming up with the thoughts, right?
Right.
Getting it from in here out on the screen. Those are all different skills. But the more you do them, the more you'll do them. All of that to say is in your first year, you might publish 2 books or 1 book, but the next year you can publish, like, what did you publish? 1 fiction last year?
I published 1 fiction at the end of last year.
Yep.
And I'll have 2. Geez, what am I doing here? I got two fiction this year. Novels, though. The last year was technically 3 books. It was 2 nonfiction.
2 nonfiction and a fiction.
And a fiction, and they were all under 40,000 words.
Yep. This year
I'm gonna publish 130 to 140,000 words worth of fiction.
And
another nonfiction book.
Yep. So this year is 2 fiction and 1 nonfiction.
Right. And they're novels, not novellas. So it's like much more volume.
Yep. And then just for giggles, what's the plan for 25?
For 25, I've got 3 or 4 publications planned. Okay. And 2 to 3 of them are fiction. 2 for sure.
So surely you're going to be full-time as a writer then, right? You're going to give up all the...
If that happens, I will call everyone and let them know.
Okay, perfect. Well, but I'm saying you're playing the long game. You're playing the 10-year game. You're playing the long game because you have merino training. Right. You have
and realistically
partnership, and you have
right. And it does get
and
to
the courses and the EBMC.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
But people sometimes when they think about this equation, right? Like when they're like, hey, do I start the author business or not? And they don't think about it as a long game. They think about the short game only. I think they're cutting themselves short because you could have actually I talked to a very successful fiction writer who right now makes 6 figures plus a year just in fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have to worry like they did their first year. When they left their job, they were making $400 a month on fiction.
Right.
And I laughed when he said that. I said, really? 400 a month? He's like, dude, I left with $400 a month in book revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And that for
But
some
then
people,
he went in on the fiction, it sounds like.
oh, he was all in on his fiction. But I would just say this, for some people, certain numbers work and for others they don't, right? So for me to be able to transition away from the other assets that do provide me with income,
Right.
the number is much higher than it would have to be for some other people because I've got certain expenses involved in my businesses and in my life that are inherent with having 3 kids and they're all teenagers and they're eating everything. Right?
They want to eat every day,
everything.
every single day, everything every day.
So, you have to kind of just understand your own circumstances and don't expect that you can match. But
No.
know what your floor is.
No.
Like know where you need to be comfortable with
Right.
stepping
What's
away.
what's the habit? Is it 100 words? Is
Right.
it 250 words? Is it 500 words? Is it 1,000 words? Is it 5,000 words?
Well, I'm thinking in monthly revenue. Right. The short-term game for me is about how much money I'm making this year.
Sure. And in order to get from $400 a month to $40,000 a month,
Yeah.
there's a gap. Well, there's a gap and it's not insurmountable. And you get there one sentence at a time or one course module at a time or one coaching session at a time. And so I just want to have a plan, play with some numbers to work the plan. And then, yes, you are a slacker for sure. I was meaning to talk to you about it next week when you're in town. We'll have a sit down.
You reprimanded.
Yes, I'll give you some pointers on how to get up in the morning and things like that.
Starts with not staying up late.
Starts with not staying up till 3 a.m.
Yeah.
So everything starts with a plan. It does not start with I'll start tomorrow.
Right.
It starts with I'm going to start today. What am I going to do today? How am I going to carve out time today? And there are an awful lot of things that we all want to do, and you have to say no to those things, at least in part, in order to say yes to the thing that you want long term.
Absolutely.
Because if I want 120 books 10 years from now, then I have to work on it every day. And I do, and I am. I didn't write the 65 books by saying I'm going to start tomorrow. I started today. And I made a ton of mistakes. And I made still making mistakes, right? It's like I feel like if I'm winning or I'm winning, I'm winning or I'm learning and winning. So I look at something and I go, wow, that wasn't good. That didn't go well. It went so much better in my head. It was so much easier and faster and more lucrative in my head. And what did I learn from it? And how do I do the application? So my first book I wrote actually not too slowly because it was very short. It was 11,000 words. I ran out of words. And then I did a whole lot with that book and it set the stage. But now if someone says, how long does it take you to write a book? I can write a full-size book in not very long, 2 to 3 weeks, because I'm a skilled professional. So the stronger that muscle is and the more you continue to use it, the more you'll be able to use it. And when I'm working on my 10-year plan, I then have my 1-year plan. Then I have my Q2 plan, right? Then I have my, what am I doing in June? What's happening in July? What's happening in August? And it's what am I doing today?
Right.
Because I can only be in today. I got to be where my feet are.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But I know where I want my feet to be in 10 years. And so every day I put in the time to do that. And it's really just that simple. It's not easy. If it were easy, everyone would do it. It gets easier the more you do it. It's hard work. That's the thing I think people don't talk about. They don't want to use the hard work words together,
Oh
and they
yeah.
don't want to use discipline together. But you have 2 fiction books and 2 nonfiction books and you didn't have them at the beginning of 23. We're 18 months in and you have 4 books.
And I have 2 unpublished.
Right, but you understand
Yeah.
what I'm saying, is it's
Yeah, no,
like
I'm saying there's
it
actually
didn't
more work
magically
there.
happen. It
That's
didn't
right.
magically happen, and you're not sitting in your house on the hill with
Yep.
a trust fund with all the time in the
No.
world and
No.
no one asking for your time.
Right.
All of that to say, I'm like, "Who's living on a hill?" Oh, that's me. I don't have a trust fund though. If I do, I need to know where it is. Um,
Uh,
but my demands on my time are significantly less than they were when I was in the stage of being a parent all the time. So this will pass, and enjoy the time that you're in. And that's a little bit of lesson for folks that are in the season. When I talk to women, specifically moms who have littles, and they say, but I want the business that you have and I want to do what you're doing. It's like, you're in a season right now, and the season will pass and it will be over very quickly. And then you will have all the time in the world to do all the things, which is what I have. And in the meantime, enjoy the time that you have your kids. And because this is the only summer of 2024 you're going to get with them. So enjoy that time. You can always write stuff later.
mm-hmm.
And also, they're kids. So while they're eating a sandwich, take those 18 minutes and write your 3 paragraphs.
And don't get me wrong, my kids don't want to hang out with me. So if you're all watching this and you're like, I don't see my kids. Well, I don't see my kids for most of the time, but when we do see each
Oh my
other,
God.
it's all on. Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
And I was remiss in mentioning one way to kind of think about this that's been really powerful this last year.
Yeah.
And Honoree, you and I have discussed this between us before. We don't talk a lot about it on the show, but
Right.
it has been really nice to be partnered with someone on these types of endeavors, because despite all the background administrative stuff that comes with partnering with someone on an endeavor that involves finances and long-term things, one of the reasons I'm able to breathe a little bit easier is because I am co-authoring some projects, and
Right.
that comes with a little bit of work relief. So if you're looking for a way to kind of increase your ability to produce, sometimes it's by just having a really trustworthy relationship with another professional, and you guys can work together.
No.
I know.
So much easier to work with people that are unprofessional and deceptive. No, come on, Lucas.
Well,
and slackers. Don't forget
it's
the slackers.
Yeah, don't forget the slackers. It is something to. It is nice to be able to know that I'm not going to have to do everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, even the stuff I'm outsourcing, when you're the person outsourcing it, you still have to manage that part of the project.
That's right. Yeah.
When someone else is there, you're sharing that load. So
amen.
Over the next year, my numbers of 2 fiction books, maybe 3, are just mine. That doesn't count my co-authoring projects, which is another 2 to 3 titles. And the only reason I can go from 2 to 3 to 5 to 6 is because there is a partner involved that's taking some of that workload. So if you're really looking to like crank up the heat on productivity, that might be one way you can do that. Honoree helped me with my first nonfiction release. If it hadn't been for having this tremendous mentor in my life and someone that I could go, hey, would you read this and tell me how bad it sucks? And then it comes back with all the tags on it.
Okay. That's not what you said. And that's not what the tags were for.
Then I wouldn't have been able to get that book out that fast. Also, I would have rushed it. And so having someone there with me to go, hold up, dude, you're getting ready to step on a landmine, was really powerful, because the book being a long game thing, it felt like a short game thing in the moment when I was creating it.
Yep.
But having someone that understands the long game aspect of this for your business and says, hold up a second, breathe for a second, let's get this right before you hit go, is huge, which
Don't
is a testament
rush.
to not working alone.
Don't rush, everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have 5 minutes left, and if anyone has any questions, like, now's the time to get them in the chat. We've got Jen here. We've got Justin here.
Hi, Jen. Hi, Justin.
If anyone's on Facebook, I'll see if I can see any comments there because Facebook's being funny with live streams these days. So, but
Speaking of territorial,
yes, yes, yes. I don't know why they're doing this to us, but I know why they're doing this to us.
yeah, of
So,
course,
for
of
those
course.
that don't know, if you're really looking for the one place to watch our show, it's on YouTube.
Yep,
And the reason for that is Facebook is doing Facebook things. You know, they're like, hey,
yep,
we don't want other software connecting with us as easily.
yep,
We want you to just go live on Facebook.
yeah,
And so we're working
yeah,
around that a little bit. But
yeah. Awesome.
and then LinkedIn doesn't let the two systems communicate via chat.
Right. So who knows what's happening over on LinkedIn? We'll see that later. I'll get a notification. Like in 2 hours, I'll get a message from LinkedIn that somebody was commenting. I get those after the fact. It's very interesting.
Right.
So, do you have a 10-year goal for your writing, for your fiction writing?
I kind of do. So the answer is yes. But part of my 10-year goals are that the further out the goal setting is, the more flexible I am with it.
Yeah, great.
Right.
Because you never know.
You never know.
You never know. You could
You
be
never know.
writing romance here before you know it.
I might be an erotic writer by the end of the 10-year period.
Well, already.
Every time I meet someone that's doing really well with that, I go, man, I should just whip up a pen name and get to work.
Yeah, I've
I'm,
listened to some author
yeah,
podcast interviews of some people that write in some pretty interesting
yes,
genres, and I'm just like, huh,
yeah,
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 all right.
yeah. So yeah, in short, my 10-year goal is to keep producing a minimum of 3 fiction titles a year,
Great.
and to let my nonfiction take me where it goes. Because I feel like the nonfiction, when it serves the right people, it's so inspired
Yep.
by what people are trying to learn at that point
Yep.
that's the way I want to serve them. So I think my nonfiction books may grow in scope over the next 2 years. But as far as fiction goes, I definitely want to produce 2 to 3 titles a year for 10 years at a minimum.
Yeah. I love it.
And outside of the titles, I really want my group around my fiction to grow. That's kind of like more important to me than the numbers of books I put out.
Yeah. You're
It's kind
super
of
fans.
yeah, I want super fans and I want to be close with them. So when people talk about having a Patreon or a Ream, a subscriptions for authors thing, and they're thinking about it strictly as a business, I've set all those things up to work, but I want them to work for the right reasons. If I had 40 or 50 like just dyed in the wool true
Yeah.
diehard fans there, what a wonderful layer to have in an author business.
What's that book? What's the book about it? Is it 1000 True Fans? What's the book? Let me
Oh,
look.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't
That's a
have it
really
though.
great book for people to read.
Right. So that's where I've been.
Yeah, it's Kevin Kelly, 1000
Okay.
True Fans.
Yeah. So I would
It was
like.
actually, it's not even a, sorry to interrupt you. It's
Right.
not the, it's actually an article, 1000 True Fans.
Okay. Yeah, I would like that kind of author career where I just have a very interactive, fun, because there's so much enjoyment that comes from that
That's right.
for me. Some
That's right.
people aren't like that; they don't want that. That's I completely understand.
I want the readers, but don't talk to me.
Well, they're not comfortable. Yeah, I've
I can't people. Just read my book.
yeah
That's
they
not
can't
me.
people,
I
right?
I will love that too. I love talking about a story. So I look forward
Yeah.
to
Like it would just
developing some
mow me over to
characters.
have a conversation with someone. Like I could just talk for an hour about Burn the Girls. Like if they were like, "Hey man, why did you do this?" I'd be like, "Oh, let's talk about it." Like because I'm passionate about the stories I write. So
Yep.
it's fun to share that passion. When
Yep.
when it's coming back. And I have noticed that there are a very dedicated group of people to everything that I put out. So when I do announce, they're like buying pre-ordered hardcovers and paperbacks, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
the book's not even written yet. Those are the kinds of people that I really want to just keep getting to know.
Yep.
How about you?
Well, I still want to write nonfiction as it occurs to me to write. And right now I'm focused on optimizing my backlist and making sure that My books are not terrible. So I've learned a lot in the last 20 years. And so I look back on some of my titles and go, ooh, that hurts a little. So I'm optimizing those titles. I'll continue to write nonfiction. I don't know about what necessarily, but who knows? I'm with you. It's like wherever it takes me. And then I have some definite goals around fiction and that kind of thing. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Okay, we have to go.
Yep, we have to roll, guys. So top of the hour. We appreciate you. Make sure you guys come back. We won't be here next week.
We won't.
We will not be here next week.
We'll be here, but we just won't be here.
That's right. We will be there.
That's right.
So if you guys want to stay in tune with what's going on with the show, make sure you like and subscribe. Come to the YouTube channel, follow us there.
Substack?
We'd love, Substack. Our newsletter on Substack is growing. Honoree has done a tremendous amount of work to produce those articles, and they're super informative. So definitely go check out the
Thank you, Lucas.
Empire Builders Masterclass. I mean, you've been cranking them out. I mean, she's a machine. She inspires me every Wednesday. I go, gosh, it's awesome. So go there and learn things. And follow us, subscribe there if you're interested in our newsletter.
And then we won't be back in 2 weeks either because it's the 4th of July that day.
That's right.
So we'll be back on the 11th of July with some really great content and interviews. And we're going to just keep it cranking through the summer and come back with some really good topics and some guests. We're going to continue the Why I Wrote This series. And I'll have a new book launch the next time we're here. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Lucas. You're the best.
All right. See you guys next month.